They are created by the lasting impact someone leaves on the heart, by the peace they bring into everyday life, by the confidence they inspire, and by the way they make another person feel fully accepted without asking them to become anyone other than who they truly are. Once a man has experienced that kind of connection, he begins to understand something that many people spend years trying to figure out. The most unforgettable relationships are rarely the loudest ones. They are rarely the most dramatic. They are not defined by constant highs and lows. Instead, they are defined by consistency, by emotional safety, by the quiet confidence that comes from knowing someone genuinely wants the best for you. This realization changes the way he sees love. He stops chasing intensity for its own sake. He starts valuing stability, because stability is not boring. Stability is what allows love to grow. Think about the strongest trees in a forest. They do not become strong because of one perfect day. They become strong because their roots grow deeper over time. Relationships work in much the same way. The deepest roots are formed through ordinary moments, through showing up when it matters, through listening instead of assuming, through choosing patience instead of pride. A man who experiences this kind of relationship begins recognizing that the qualities which truly matter are often the quiet ones. There is another sign that someone has become the standard against which future relationships are measured. He begins noticing how rare emotional maturity really is. Anyone can be kind when life is easy. Anyone can communicate well when there is complete agreement. But emotional maturity reveals itself during difficult moments, when misunderstandings happen, when expectations are not met, when disappointment appears. Does the relationship become a competition, or does it become an opportunity to understand each other more deeply? A man who has experienced healthy communication begins recognizing just how valuable it is, because healthy communication creates solutions. Defensiveness creates distance. Understanding creates closeness. Another powerful sign is that he begins appreciating the feeling of being emotionally supported. Support is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is simply knowing someone believes in you. Knowing someone encourages your dreams. Knowing someone reminds you of your strength during moments when you have forgotten it yourself. These moments become unforgettable because they change how a person experiences life. The right encouragement at the right moment can alter someone's entire future. That kind of influence cannot easily be replaced. There is also the way meaningful relationships create emotional confidence. Confidence is not only about believing in yourself. Sometimes confidence grows because someone consistently reminds you that you are capable, that you are worthy, that your efforts matter. A man who feels strengthened rather than diminished by a relationship begins understanding how extraordinary that experience really is. Because not every relationship helps people grow. Some drain energy. Some create uncertainty. Some create self-doubt. Healthy relationships create confidence. They inspire courage. They encourage authenticity. Another thing that often happens is that gratitude quietly replaces expectation. Instead of constantly asking what is missing, he begins appreciating what is already present. The honesty, the trust, the loyalty, the kindness, the emotional consistency. Gratitude changes perspective because it shifts attention toward abundance rather than scarcity. And relationships built on gratitude often become much stronger over time. There is also the realization that the greatest attraction often comes from emotional reliability. Knowing someone means what they say. Knowing their actions match their words. Knowing they remain consistent even when circumstances become difficult. Reliability creates peace, and peace allows love to flourish. Without reliability, people constantly question the relationship. With reliability, they gain the freedom to simply enjoy it. Another sign is that he starts recognizing how much easier life feels with someone who genuinely understands him. Life already contains enough challenges, work, responsibilities, unexpected setbacks. The right relationship does not remove those difficulties. It changes how they are experienced. Challenges feel lighter when someone stands beside you. Victories feel sweeter when they are shared. Ordinary days feel brighter because someone meaningful is part of them. That is one of the quiet miracles of genuine connection. There is also the way rare people encourage authenticity simply by accepting it. When someone feels accepted, pretending becomes unnecessary. Conversations become more honest. Laughter becomes more natural. Silence becomes more comfortable. There is no constant pressure to impress, only the freedom to connect. A man who experiences that freedom often realizes how exhausting it had been to perform in previous relationships, because real connection begins where performance ends. Another important realization is that respect often becomes even more powerful than attraction. Attraction can begin a relationship. Respect sustains it. Respect grows when someone consistently demonstrates integrity, keeps their word, treats others with kindness, handles conflict with maturity, lives according to their values. These qualities become increasingly attractive because they reveal who someone truly is, beneath appearances. And character is what remains long after first impressions fade. As time goes on, he may notice that memories involving you seem unusually vivid. Not because every experience was extraordinary, because every experience carried emotional meaning. Simple walk, meaningful conversation, quiet evening together, shared moment of laughter. These ordinary experiences become extraordinary in memory because of how they made him feel. And feelings are what people carry with them long after circumstances change. There is also a fascinating shift in perspective. He stops asking whether someone is exciting enough. He starts asking whether someone feels genuine enough, whether they create trust, whether they inspire growth, whether they bring peace, whether they encourage honesty. Those become the questions that matter because he has learnt that those qualities determine whether a relationship will truly last. Perhaps the greatest sign of all is that he begins understanding the difference between being impressed by someone and being changed by someone. Many people impress us. Very few transform us. The people who transform us leave behind more than memories. They leave behind better habits, greater confidence, healthier expectations, a clearer understanding of what genuine love feels like. They become part of the way we see relationships forever. And that is why comparisons happen. Not because anyone is trying to live in the past, but because meaningful experiences naturally shape future expectations. Over time, he may realize that the greatest gift someone ever gave him was not excitement or perfection, but the experience of feeling deeply understood, genuinely respected, consistently encouraged, and completely accepted. Those experiences quietly become the foundation for everything he hopes to find again. They redefine what trust feels like, what emotional safety looks like, and what lasting connection requires. Every new relationship is viewed through the lens of those lessons, not because he is searching for someone identical, but because he now recognizes the qualities that truly matter. He understands that lasting love is not built on flawless moments, but on faithful consistency. Not on dramatic declarations, but on dependable actions. Not on temporary passion alone, but on mutual respect, emotional generosity, patience, and authentic care. As these realizations continue growing stronger, he discovers that the person who set that standard did so without trying to compete with anyone else. The standard was created naturally through genuine character, quiet strength, unwavering kindness, emotional wisdom, and the remarkable ability to make another person feel more confident, more peaceful, more inspired, and more at home simply through everyday moments shared together, creating a connection that continues to influence his heart, his choices, and his understanding of love in ways that no comparison could ever fully capture, because what he experienced was never just a relationship. It was a reminder of what love feels like when it is built on something real, something lasting, and something profoundly difficult to find again. Because what he experienced was never just a relationship, it was a reminder of what love feels like when it is built on something real, something lasting, and something profoundly difficult to find again. And once a person has experienced that kind of love, expectations begin to change. Not in an unrealistic way, in a healthier way. He no longer looks only for chemistry. He begins looking for consistency. He no longer focuses only on excitement. He begins valuing emotional stability. He no longer asks, how quickly can this relationship make me feel something? He begins asking, can this relationship continue making life better over the years? Those are very different questions, and they lead to very different choices. Another sign that someone has become unforgettable is that they continue influencing decisions even when they are not present. A lesson they shared comes to mind. A piece of encouragement becomes a source of strength. A conversation changes the way he approaches a challenge. That influence is powerful because it extends beyond the relationship itself. It becomes part of how he lives. The greatest relationships often leave behind wisdom as much as memories. There is also the way meaningful love changes the definition of attraction. At first, attraction may be about appearance, smile, confidence, charm. Over time, attraction becomes connected to emotional experiences. The person who listens without interrupting. The person who remains calm during conflict. The person who celebrates your victories without jealousy. The person who encourages growth without criticism. These qualities become deeply attractive because they create emotional security. And emotional security is one of the strongest foundations any relationship can have. Another important realization is that genuine admiration continues growing with familiarity. In many situations, people fear that becoming too familiar will reduce excitement. When admiration is rooted in character, the opposite often happens. The more he learns, the more there is to appreciate. Every challenge reveals resilience. Every conversation reveals wisdom. Every act of kindness reveals compassion. Every difficult moment reveals integrity. Instead of discovering disappointment, he discovers depth. That is what makes someone unforgettable. There is also the way emotionally healthy relationships remove unnecessary uncertainty. People often mistake unpredictability for passion. Constant uncertainty creates anxiety, not intimacy. Healthy relationships replace confusion with clarity. They replace guessing with communication. They replace fear with trust. When a man experiences that kind of clarity, he often realizes how exhausting emotional uncertainty had been in previous relationships, because peace creates space for love to grow. Another sign is that he begins appreciating quiet moments more than dramatic ones. There is a certain beauty in simply sitting together without needing constant entertainment, and sharing a conversation that has no specific destination, and enjoying silence without feeling uncomfortable. These moments reveal something important. When the connection itself is enough, everything else becomes a bonus. That is one of the strongest indicators that the relationship has real substance. There is also the way rare people encourage emotional honesty, not by demanding vulnerability, by creating an environment where vulnerability feels safe. A man who feels safe, expressing disappointment, hope, excitement, or fear often discovers a level of emotional freedom he has rarely experienced before. And freedom creates closeness. Because pretending always creates distance. Authenticity creates connection. Another fascinating change is that appreciation becomes more intentional. He notices The little things, the thoughtful gestures, the encouraging words, consistent kindness, things that might have once gone unnoticed now become deeply meaningful because he understands their value. Gratitude grows stronger when awareness grows deeper. There is also the realization that meaningful relationships are built through countless small choices. Choosing patience instead of frustration. Choosing honesty instead of avoidance. Choosing understanding instead of assumptions. Choosing encouragement instead of criticism. These choices may seem ordinary. Over time, they become extraordinary because they create trust. Trust is never built through one grand gesture. It is built through repeated moments of reliability. Another sign that someone has become the standard is that he notices the absence of qualities he once took for granted. Perhaps he meets people who are charming but inconsistent, confident but unkind, interesting but emotionally unavailable. Little by little, he recognizes that the qualities he values most are not always the most obvious ones. They are the qualities that create emotional well-being: kindness, patience, empathy, honesty, emotional maturity. These qualities become increasingly important because they determine the quality of everyday life. And everyday life is where real relationships exist. There is also the way meaningful love expands perspective. Instead of seeing the relationship as something that limits freedom, he begins seeing it as something that enriches life. A supportive relationship encourages dreams, celebrates progress, provides strength during setbacks. It becomes a partnership where both people grow together rather than apart. That experience leaves a lasting impression because it changes what he believes relationships can become. Perhaps one of the greatest lessons is that love is less about finding someone extraordinary and more about recognizing extraordinary character in someone who consistently shows up with honesty, compassion, and courage. Those qualities cannot be faked for long. They reveal themselves through actions, through consistency, through everyday moments that quietly build trust over months and years. And those are the moments that remain in memory, not because they were dramatic, because they were genuine. Eventually, a man may look back and realize that what stayed with him was never a perfect conversation, a perfect date, or a perfect moment. What stayed with him was the feeling of being accepted without needing to perform, encouraged without being pressured, respected without needing to earn it every day, and understood without having to explain every emotion. Those experiences gradually became woven into the way he understood love itself. They shaped the qualities he searched for, the standards he refused to lower, and the vision he carried for every meaningful relationship that followed. He recognized that real connection is not measured by how intensely people begin, but by how consistently they continue choosing each other through ordinary days, unexpected challenges, changing seasons, and personal growth. He understood that the rarest people are not the ones who constantly demand attention, but the ones whose presence quietly transforms the atmosphere around them, making conversations feel deeper, burdens feel lighter, victories feel richer, and everyday life feel more meaningful. As that understanding continues growing, he realizes that comparisons are not about finding someone exactly the same. They are about searching for the same qualities that once made him feel respected, emotionally safe, inspired, appreciated, and genuinely understood. Those qualities become the quiet standard by which every future connection is measured, because they represent something timeless, something authentic, something that continues increasing in value with every passing year, reminding him that the greatest relationships are never built on perfection, but on the steady accumulation of trust, kindness, emotional generosity, shared growth, unwavering respect, and the extraordinary ability to make another person feel completely at home in your presence, creating a bond that remains unforgettable, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it consistently revealed the very best of what love can become, because it consistently revealed the very best of what love can become. And that is the kind of connection that quietly changes a person's definition of happiness. Before experiencing it, happiness may seem connected to excitement, achievement, or constant novelty. After experiencing it, happiness often becomes much simpler. It becomes the comfort of knowing someone genuinely understands you, the confidence that comes from being accepted, the peace that comes from emotional honesty. Those things may not always appear dramatic from the outside, but they become priceless from the inside. A man who has known that kind of connection begins to recognize that the greatest relationships do not constantly demand attention. They quietly improve everyday life. There is also something remarkable about the way trust evolves over time. Trust rarely arrives all at once. It grows one promise at a time, one honest conversation at a time, one dependable action at a time. Every moment of consistency adds another layer. Every act of kindness strengthens the foundation. Every difficult conversation handled with maturity deepens the bond. Eventually, trust stops feeling like a decision. It becomes a natural part of the relationship. And once someone experiences that level of trust, they begin realizing how valuable it truly is. Another sign that someone has become unforgettable is that they inspire emotional courage. Not because they eliminate fear, because they make vulnerability feel worthwhile. It takes courage to express emotions honestly, to admit uncertainty, to ask for support, to share dreams that matter deeply. When a relationship creates enough safety for those conversations to happen, it becomes much more than a romantic connection. It becomes a place where personal growth can flourish. There is also the way emotionally healthy relationships reshape expectations. Many people grow accustomed to inconsistency, mixed signals, confusion, uncertainty. Then they experience someone who communicates clearly, who follows through, who remains emotionally available. Suddenly they realize that healthy love does not require constant guessing. It requires mutual effort, mutual respect, mutual understanding. That realization changes everything because it raises the standard for every future relationship. Another important sign is that he begins admiring qualities that become more valuable with time, patience, wisdom, integrity, compassion, humility. These characteristics are like fine craftsmanship. Their value increases the longer they are observed. Anyone can make a good first impression. Character is revealed over months and years. When someone consistently demonstrates strong character, admiration naturally deepens. There is also the way meaningful relationships encourage emotional resilience. Life is unpredictable. Challenges are unavoidable. Disappointments happen. But the right relationship becomes a source of strength rather than additional stress. Instead of facing problems alone, there is encouragement, perspective, support. That kind of partnership creates confidence because it reminds people they are not carrying every burden by themselves. Another fascinating shift is that appreciation becomes more intentional. He no longer overlooks the simple moments, a thoughtful message, a reassuring smile, a patient conversation, a quiet act of kindness. These moments may seem ordinary, but they become extraordinary because they consistently communicate care. Love often speaks most clearly through small actions repeated over time. There is also the realization that true compatibility is about much more than shared interests. People can enjoy the same hobbies and still struggle emotionally. Real compatibility exists in values, communication, respect, the ability to solve problems together, the willingness to support each other's growth. These qualities determine whether a relationship becomes stronger as life changes, and life always changes. Another sign that someone has become the standard is that he notices how naturally encouragement flows within the relationship. The right person does not compete with your success. They celebrate it. They do not fear your growth. They support it. They do not feel threatened by your dreams. They believe in them. That kind of encouragement creates emotional security because it allows both people to grow without fear of losing the relationship. There is also the way meaningful love creates emotional balance. Balance between independence and closeness, between honesty and kindness, between confidence and humility. Healthy relationships rarely exist at emotional extremes. Instead, they create a steady rhythm that allows both people to feel secure while continuing to grow individually. A man who experiences that balance often realizes how peaceful, genuine love can be. Another beautiful sign is that memories become attached to feelings rather than events. Years later, specific details may fade. The restaurant may be forgotten. The exact words may disappear. But the feeling remains. The feeling of laughter, the feeling of acceptance, the feeling of encouragement, the feeling of being completely understood. Those emotional memories continue shaping future relationships because they define what meaningful connection feels like. There is also the understanding that authentic love allows people to become more fully themselves, not less. Healthy relationships never require someone to abandon their identity. Instead, they create an environment where authenticity feels welcomed, where strengths are appreciated, where imperfections are accepted, where growth is encouraged. This creates a relationship built on truth rather than performance. And truth creates lasting intimacy. Perhaps one of the greatest signs of all is that gratitude never stops growing. In many situations, familiarity reduces appreciation. Meaningful relationships often create the opposite effect. The more time passes, the more reasons there are to be thankful. More shared memories, more trust, more understanding, more evidence of consistent character. Gratitude continues expanding because the relationship continues revealing new depth. Eventually, a man realizes that the greatest gift someone can offer is not constant excitement, but consistent presence. A presence that remains steady through seasons of uncertainty, moments of celebration, periods of personal growth, and unexpected challenges. A presence that communicates without needing dramatic words. You are understood. You are respected. You are valued. Those messages become woven into everyday life through actions far more than promises, through showing up when it matters, through listening with genuine attention, through offering encouragement when confidence fades, through celebrating victories with sincere happiness, through remaining patient when circumstances become difficult. Over time, these countless moments create something extraordinary. They create trust so deep that it becomes second nature. They create admiration that grows stronger with familiarity rather than weaker. They create emotional safety that allows authenticity to flourish without fear. And they create a relationship that quietly becomes the measure of what healthy love should look like. As he reflects on everything the connection has given him, he understands that the true standard was never perfection. It was consistency. It was character. It was the remarkable ability to make another person feel stronger, calmer, more hopeful, more confident, simply through everyday acts of kindness, honesty, compassion, and unwavering respect. That realization stays with him because it changes not only how he remembers the relationship, but how he approaches every meaningful connection that follows. He carries forward the lessons of genuine love, recognizing that the rarest people are not those who demand the most attention, but those whose quiet strength, emotional wisdom, integrity, generosity, and authenticity continue leaving a lasting impression on the heart, setting a standard that those cannot be replaced because it was built through thousands of sincere moments that together created something truly extraordinary, something that continues to remind him that the deepest love is never about finding perfection, but about finding someone whose presence consistently brings out the very best in who he is becoming.